It started with a message from my cousin Amanda. "Hey, just checking, you got the group code for the Family Fund app, right?" I blinked at the screen. Family Fund? What family fund? I texted back. Amanda replied almost instantly. The one Aunt Leah set up. You know, to make it easier for emergencies and stuff. Group savings, like we talked about at the barbecue. There was no way. I hadn't been at that barbecue. I was out of town for work again. No one told me about any of this. I tried to play it cool. Oh, I didn't know there was one. She sent a nervous emoji. Weird. Thought everyone was in it by now. That night, I stared at the message thread for a long time. Everyone was in it. Everyone except me. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Maybe it was an oversight. Maybe it hadn't been finalized yet. But a part of me, deep down, knew better. The next day, I called my brother James. I didn't want to sound confrontational. I just needed to know. "Hey," I said. "I heard about the family fun thing. Amanda mentioned it." James paused. "Oh, yeah, that. Was there a reason I wasn't included?" He cleared his throat. "I think Mom said something like, 'You're doing okay. You know, financially. Didn't want to bother you. Didn't want to bother me.' As if being part of a family effort was some kind of burden I should be grateful to skip." "You could have at least asked," I said. James sighed. "It wasn't personal. It was just simpler this way. Everyone else is local, too. Easier to coordinate. Local. Right. I lived 40 minutes away, not on the moon. After that call, I didn't say anything to the rest of the family. I didn't send a passive-aggressive text or demand an apology. I just let the silence speak for me. That weekend, I visited my parents' house. Mom greeted me like everything was normal. "Sweetheart, you look thin. Are you eating enough?" I smiled. Enough. Dad was in the kitchen, laughing with my sister and her husband. The house was full of noise, smells, movement. I watched them pass a phone around, pointing at something on a finance app. I didn't ask what it was. I already knew. Later, as we sat around the table, I brought it up gently. "So, Amanda told me about the family fund." There was a beat of silence. My mother smiled too tightly. "Oh, honey, we didn't want to trouble you with it." "Why would it be trouble?" "Well, you've got your own place, your job, your routine. We figured you didn't need to worry about all this." "And everyone else does?" She shifted in her seat. "It's more for, you know, group emergencies. If someone's car breaks down or we want to invest in something together. Things like that. So family things." "Yes, exactly," she said. I nodded. "Just not for me." Dad spoke up then. "Don't take it like that. We were just thinking practically." Of course they were. That was the thing about my family. They were always just being practical when it came to excluding me. I wasn't the dramatic one. I didn't stir things up. I didn't lean on them for support. So they treated me like I didn't need it, or worse, like I didn't deserve it. It wasn't the first time they'd made that assumption. It wouldn't be the last. When my car broke down 2 winters ago, I didn't ask them for help. I figured it out on my own, took a bus to work for 2 weeks while I saved up for the repairs. No one even noticed. But when my sister needed help covering her rent, they held a family meeting about it. Everyone chipped in. There was even a prayer said over the decision. That's what family unity looked like in my house, dramatic gestures for some, blind assumptions for others. I left early that night. Made an excuse about an early morning meeting. No one protested. No one walked me out. Back in my car, I sat with the engine running and stared at my hands on the steering wheel. There was no anger. Not yet. Just a sinking sense of recognition. This wasn't the first time I'd been left out of something meant for everyone. It was just the first time they gave it a name. Family Fund. Family Unity. A unity I wasn't part of. Not because I didn't belong, but because they decided I didn't need to. Later that week, I got a forwarded email from Amanda, the one with the official group invite link. The subject line read, "Just in case." But the damage was done. I never clicked the link. I didn't need to be part of something that only remembered me as an afterthought. It's easy to say it didn't bother me, to act like I brushed it off. But the truth is, it stuck with me. Not because I wanted their money or their approval, but because I wanted to stop being treated like the one who didn't count. Every family has a role. Mine was the outsider, the afterthought, the fine on her own. They didn't see me as family, just as optional. From the time I could understand the shape of our family, I knew where I stood. I was the middle child, the quiet one, not rebellious like my older brother, and not precious like my younger sister. Just there. I didn't make waves. I didn't cause trouble, but I wasn't celebrated either. Birthdays came and went with polite cake and store-bought cards. No banners. No handmade posters. No group photos with glowing captions. When it was my sister's birthday, the house looked like a Pinterest board had exploded, hand-lettered signs, balloon arches, curated playlists, and a camera on standby. I never said anything. I figured maybe I liked it quieter. But it wasn't just birthdays. It was everything. When my brother barely scraped by in high school, he was still treated like the prodigal son. He's got so much potential, my mom would say. He just needs time. When I made honor roll 3 semesters in a row, she glanced at my certificate and said, "Good. Keep it up." My dad once told me, "You're the dependable one. We never have to worry about you." He meant it as praise. I took it as permission to forget I had needs too. The pattern only got clearer as we got older. I started working part-time at 16, juggling school and evening shifts at a diner. I used the money to buy my own clothes, cover my phone bill, help with gas. No one told me to. I just figured it was the right thing to do. When I mentioned it one night at dinner, my mom barely looked up from her plate. "That's great, sweetheart," she said. Very responsible. That same year, my sister asked for money to go on a school trip to New York. They held a fundraiser. My aunt chipped in. My dad gave her cash the morning she left and told her to enjoy every minute. I went to community college while I saved for university. I didn't ask for help with tuition. I applied for grants, took night classes, and worked weekends. I remember once coming home with a stack of books under one arm and overhearing my mom on the phone with a family friend. "She's managing fine," she said. Always has. Managing fine. That was my family's definition of love for me, self-management. They gave my siblings room to struggle, room to fail. But I was expected to have it together, all the time. My needs weren't treated like vulnerabilities. They were treated like inconveniences. There were small moments too, Christmas presents that didn't match the effort, inside jokes I was left out of, family group chats where I only saw the aftermath. Once, my sister got a surprise party because she had been feeling down. When I went through a breakup after a 4-year relationship, I got a text from my mom that said, "Tough year. Don't lose focus." I didn't expect a party, but I guess a hug might have been nice. One time, I found out they went on a weekend trip to the mountains. They said it was last minute, just a quick thing. But I saw the photos, coordinated outfits, matching snow gear, group shots with captions like "Family Forever." I wasn't even asked. When I brought it up to my mom, she sighed. "It was just a little thing," she said. "We didn't think you'd want to take off work." I could have tried, I told her. She said, "Well, we didn't want to put pressure on you." The truth? They never gave me the option to say yes. They made my independence sound like freedom, but it was isolation. It looked good on paper, strong, self-reliant, unbothered. But it came at the cost of connection. By the time I graduated from college, I didn't even tell them the date of the ceremony. I walked the stage, took my own photos, treated myself to dinner, and went home alone. My sister got 2 parties when she finished cosmetology school. One with friends, one with family. I helped pay for one of them. When I finally got my first full-time job, an entry-level analyst position, I told my dad. "That's good," he said. "Stick with it." That was it. No hug. No pride. Just a nod and the next subject. They loved that I was stable. That I wasn't a burden. But stability isn't the same as being seen. It was a slow lesson, but I learned it. Over time, I gave less. Spoke less. Showed up less. No one seemed to mind. And the less I asked for, the more they assumed I didn't need. There was a Thanksgiving a few years back. My aunt had a new boyfriend. Everyone made him feel welcome. Sat him next to Grandpa, poured him wine, laughed at his bad jokes. When I brought a date, my mom asked him to help with the dishes before he even sat down. Afterward, my sister leaned in and said, "Don't take it personally. You know how she is. But that's the thing. They all were. Even when I hosted Christmas once, footing the bill for dinner and cleaning the whole house, I barely got a thank you. My sister told people she helped. My mom nodded like it was true. And I let it happen. I always let it happen. Because it felt easier than asking for recognition I knew wouldn't come. So when they started the family fund years later, I should have seen it coming. It was just the latest chapter in a long book of subtle exclusion. A group effort where I wasn't considered part of the group. An emergency plan that never imagined I'd need help. And maybe I wouldn't. But they didn't know that. Because they never asked. They never let me need anything. Only provide it. When I found out about the family fund and my name wasn't on it, I didn't argue. I didn't demand answers or try to plead my case. I just let the silence speak. It was easier that way. I could have said something. I could have brought it up in the family group chat, the one they remembered to add me back to after 2 months of, "Oh, we thought you were too busy." But what would I have gained? Another round of vague apologies? A few excuses wrapped in polite guilt? Maybe even worse, more reminders that they didn't see anything wrong with what they'd done. So I did what I'd always done. I handled it myself. I stayed quiet. But the distance started to grow like ivy, steadily, silently, wrapping around everything. The next time my mom called, I let it ring. I told myself I was tired, that I'd call back later. I didn't. When my sister texted, "What's up, stranger?" I just stared at the screen, deleted the notification, no energy left for half-hearted questions. A week passed, then 2. No one followed up. I skipped the next family dinner, told them I had a work thing. No one asked what kind. No one asked if I'd be around later. They just said, "Okay, maybe next time." But there wasn't a next time. The group photos kept showing up online. Birthday cakes I didn't eat. Game nights I wasn't invited to. I used to get a tag. Now I got nothing, as if I was already gone. So I stopped looking. The silence turned into stillness, and for the first time in a long while, I started to feel peace. Without their noise, I could hear myself think. Without the guilt, I could move freely. I started journaling again, went for longer walks, cooked full meals instead of microwaving leftovers, things that seemed small, but they were mine. I cleaned out my apartment, donated the clutter, bought new sheets, lit candles that smelled like pine and amber, not desperation. I started tracking my finances, researching investments, slowly building a picture of the life I wanted. Not a glamorous fantasy, but something solid. Something quiet and self-made. The version of me they didn't bother to imagine. One afternoon, I got a voicemail from my dad. I hadn't heard his voice in weeks. Dad said, "Hey, just checking in. Haven't heard from you. Hope everything's okay. Your mom said you've been laying low. Laying low. Not hurting. Not distant. Just low. As if I was crouching in the dark out of choice. Still, I didn't respond. Because I wasn't crouching. I was standing taller than ever. They just weren't looking. Eventually, the calls stopped. And I let them. Because for the first time, I wasn't fighting for a seat at their table. I was building my own. I started noticing things I'd ignored before. How often I made myself available. How quickly I said yes. How often I dropped what I was doing to prove I cared. It was a cycle of proving, not living. And now I was learning how to live. I spent weekends at coffee shops reading books I had put off for years. I met people who asked me real questions about what I wanted, how I felt, what I dreamed of. Not what I could do for them. I stopped offering explanations. Stopped filling the silences with justifications. Stopped apologizing for needing space. A former coworker invited me to a networking event. I said yes. A small dinner turned into an idea session. That turned into a side gig. That turned into a new lane. The kind of opportunity no one in my family even knew I was capable of or interested in, because they never asked. And I'd stopped offering. That was the turning point, I think. Realizing that not being included wasn't just about them, it was also about me no longer begging for inclusion. I stopped playing the quiet one in their narrative. I started being the lead in mine. And it wasn't loud. It wasn't flashy. It was quiet, soft, but powerful. I didn't hate them. I wasn't angry every day, but the trust, that was gone. The effort, that was mine now, for my own life. One evening, while organizing my inbox, I came across a years-old email chain about a birthday plan. It was for my brother. I had helped coordinate it, pay for decorations, even picked up the cake. I remembered how excited I'd been. No one thanked me. They never did. And in that moment, I realized I never needed their thank yous. I needed their presence, their effort. And since I never got that, I learned to give it to myself. So I stayed quiet. And the distance grew. They made me feel invisible. So I gave them silence in return. It happened on a Thursday. The kind of Thursday where nothing seems remarkable. The air was still. The sky overcast. I'd had a late start to the morning, spilled coffee on my sweater, and missed the early train by seconds. The kind of day that nudges you toward frustration without ever outright shoving you there. I was halfway through my leftover lunch, scrolling through headlines, when I saw the numbers posted. That's when I remembered the ticket crumpled in the side pocket of my canvas bag, the one I always carry but never quite clean out. I pulled it out slowly, smoothing the wrinkles against my thigh. The ink was still clear. The numbers were printed in their neat, machine-perfect font. I don't know why I bought it. A moment of impulse, I guess. I'd been standing in line for groceries, and the man in front of me bought 3. I'd never been the kind to gamble, but I was feeling indulgent that day. Or maybe just curious. I read the numbers once, then again, then a third time. Each time, I matched them. Each time, my breath stayed shallow. I didn't scream. I didn't laugh. I didn't even smile. I just sat there, the half-eaten sandwich limp in my hand, and looked at the tiny scrap of paper that had just rewritten my entire life. A woman walked past my table, glanced at me. I looked back down, folded the ticket into my palm like it was something fragile and alive. Inside, everything shifted. The world turned a little softer at the edges. But outside, I stayed still. The amount wasn't public yet. The lump sum hadn't been confirmed. But the numbers didn't lie. And I knew without a doubt that everything had just changed. Still, I went back to work. Answered emails. Took calls. Acted like nothing had happened. Because no one knew. Not yet. And I wanted to keep it that way. I walked home that night with the ticket zipped into the small inside pocket of my coat. I could feel it pressing against my ribs with every step. The city was louder than usual. Or maybe I was just listening differently. Every flashing billboard, every honking car, every conversation I passed felt like it belonged to another version of me. One that might have rushed home to post about it. One that might have called someone screaming. But not this me. This me knew what silence could hold. This me had been excluded from hand-me-down wealth and family-only investments. This me had been the reliable one, the afterthought. And now I had the kind of freedom people fantasize about at red lights. The kind of freedom they whisper about into pillows alone. I took a hot shower, lit a candle, ate dinner in silence. And I didn't tell a soul, because I knew the minute I did, everything would tilt. I'd go from invisible to indispensable, from forgotten to family. I made a spreadsheet the next morning. I didn't touch the money, not yet. I wanted to plan, to feel grounded. I looked up lawyers, financial advisors, long-term investment strategies. I made a list of what I wanted. Not material things, but real things. Peace, options, boundaries. A new car, maybe, but one I picked, not one to impress them. An apartment upgrade, but no guest room. A quiet vacation alone. Somewhere with no reception. Just sun, salt, and books. I started fantasizing about saying no and meaning it. Not in anger, but in calm, unwavering grace. No, I can't lend you anything. No, I won't be at the reunion. No, I'm not interested in being part of the next family opportunity. I thought about how none of them had called in weeks. How the last group photo didn't even include a "we missed you." Just hearts, likes, and the usual back-patting. I could have sent them a picture of the ticket, watched the ripple hit. But I didn't. Because they didn't deserve to know. Not yet. And maybe not ever. I took the long way home from work that night, walked past the bookstore, let myself browse without checking my watch, bought a hardback just because I liked the cover. I stopped for dinner, ate at the bar. The server asked if I wanted dessert. I said yes, because I could, because I wasn't rushing, because the world felt different now, even if no one else knew. At one point, I looked around the restaurant. A birthday party clinked glasses behind me. A couple argued softly near the window. Strangers living their lives, unaware they were sitting feet away from someone who'd just cracked the code. It didn't feel real, but it was. I reached into my bag and touched the ticket. Still there, still mine. And with every passing hour, the weight of it began to feel less like shock and more like power. Quiet, measured, uncompromising. They didn't include me when I had nothing, so I didn't owe them anything now. The first call came from my brother. "Hey," he said casually, like we talked every week. "Just checking in. How's life treating you?" I stared at the screen before answering. His name had barely shown up on my phone in the last year. Suddenly, he was curious. "I'm good," I replied. There was a pause, just long enough for me to hear the tension on his end. "That's good. That's really good," he said. "Things have been hectic here. Just some bumps. You know how it is." I didn't respond. I let the silence stretch. Eventually, he filled it. "Well, some stuff with the family fund got a little complicated." "Complicated how?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. "Oh, you know, a couple of investments didn't pan out. Nothing major. But it's been stressful for Mom and Dad. Just thought I'd mention it. Mention it. Like it was casual. Like this was a weather report." Over the next few days, the calls kept coming. My sister, my aunt, even my dad, who only ever called when someone died or something broke. Each of them danced around the same theme. How was I doing? How was work? Was I still in the same apartment, still working that good job? I answered each question with calm, short replies. "I'm well, thanks. Work's solid." "Yes, same place." No one asked if I needed anything. No one brought up the fund directly, at least not at first. But the shift was obvious. Suddenly, the person they didn't include was the one they were all circling back to. Eventually, the real motive crept in. Mom called one afternoon. Her voice was strained. "I was just talking to your father," she said, "and we were thinking about how quiet things have been lately. How much we miss you." And then, I replied. "I mean, we all have ups and downs. Even as a family, you know? We've had some financial pressure. Just temporary. Is everything okay?" I asked. "Oh, sure," she said quickly. "It's not about us. We're just thinking about the future, about being smarter with how we handle things. That fund was meant to support all of us. Except me," I said. There was silence. "I didn't mean it that way," she said softly. "How did you mean it?" She didn't answer that. Instead, she changed the subject. Asked about the weather. If I'd eaten lunch. I let her, because I didn't need her to explain. I just needed to listen. For once, I wasn't scrambling to prove I cared. I wasn't pulling out my wallet, offering solutions, absorbing their panic. I just listened. The family fund, as it turned out, had taken a massive hit after one of my cousins pushed for a joint investment in a failing startup. They'd all gone in. Blind loyalty, groupthink, maybe greed. Who knows? But when it collapsed, so did the illusion of their financial harmony. And now they were spinning. One by one, they reached out. One cousin texted, "So funny, I had a dream about you." "You doing okay?" Another wrote, "We should really catch up soon. Miss your energy." Miss my money, more like. It was like watching a slow parade of panic wrapped in small talk. I responded politely. Never cold, never rude, but always distant. I'd learned something valuable during the silence I chose months ago. They only came close when they needed something. And this time, I wasn't rushing in. I didn't tell them about the lottery. I didn't tell them about the advisor I was working with, or the way I'd already started growing the money quietly. I didn't tell them I was now in a financial position to solve half their problems with a single phone call, because they didn't need a lifeline. They needed a mirror. And I wasn't going to be the one to offer either. Let them feel what I felt when I first learned I wasn't even invited to participate. Let them sit with the weight of exclusion. At one point, Dad hinted more directly. You know, you've always been smart with money, he said. And your mother and I, well, things are just tight right now. I understand, I replied. He waited. I just thought I'd mention it, he said. Thanks for telling me, I said. That was it. No offer. No sympathy laced with obligation. No reaching for my purse. Just calm acknowledgement. And that silence? It was louder than anything I could have said. Later that week, I got a message from another cousin. The same one who'd told me about the fund in the first place. He wrote, "You heard what happened with the group, right? Wild stuff." I replied, I did. You ever think about what would have happened if they had included you? No, I wrote. They didn't. That's what matters. Because I didn't need to imagine a different past. I had a very clear present. A present where I wasn't on anyone's emergency list, but suddenly at the top of everyone's call log. A present where people remembered my name when their own plans crumbled. And I was still exactly who I'd been before. Just quieter, clearer, unmoved. For once, they needed me. And I didn't lift a finger. It was my sister who finally said what they had all been dancing around for weeks. We were at a family brunch, one of those awkward gatherings where no one really knew why we were there, but everyone showed up anyway. Eggs, coffee, polite smiles. My seat was at the far end of the table, which felt fitting. Halfway through her mimosa, she leaned in and said, "You've changed." I set my fork down. What do you mean? You're different, distant, cold even. I smiled softly. No, I just stopped chasing people who never picked me. That silenced her for a moment. My father glanced over. My brother looked down at his plate. She straightened up. We've all noticed. You barely respond to messages. You skip dinners. You act like we're strangers. I didn't flinch. You made me feel like one for years. I just adjusted. My mother cleared her throat, attempting to pivot. We've all been through a lot lately. It's been a hard season. I nodded. Yes, and in hard seasons, people reveal who they really prioritize. There was another silence. Then my sister dropped it. We know, she said. I looked at her. Know what? Her eyes narrowed. About the lottery. The room tensed like someone had hit a switch. My brother coughed into his hand. My aunt stared. My dad looked like he'd swallowed something sharp. Oh, I said, calm as ever. Okay. That's why you've been acting like this, she asked. Because you're rich now? I shook my head. No, this is how I've always felt. The money didn't change me. It just confirmed what I already knew, which is, my dad asked. That I was always capable, I said. Now I'm just unavailable. The table fell quiet. My cousin tried to change the subject with a nervous laugh. Come on, let's not make this weird. We're family. But I wasn't laughing, because something had shifted, and they all knew it. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the one quietly nodding along to keep the peace. I wasn't the one stretching myself thin so they'd include me. And the tension in the room? That wasn't discomfort. That was the sound of a power dynamic unraveling. I reached for my water, took a sip, and added, I'm not angry. I'm just done pretending. My mother looked like she was trying not to cry. But we've always loved you. No, I said gently. You've always used me. You loved the version of me that was helpful, not the version with boundaries. Dad spoke up next. So what, you're cutting us off now? You win a little money and suddenly we're the enemy. It's not about the money, I replied. It's about the silence. The way I was treated before you thought I had anything to offer. He leaned forward. That's not fair. We've always done our best. No, I said, firmer this time. You did your best for everyone else. For me, you did what was convenient. The brunch had gone quiet. The server hadn't returned in over 20 minutes. No one had touched their food. My sister sat with her arms folded, lips pressed tight. You think you're better than us now. I laughed just once, soft and low. I've never thought I was better than anyone. I just finally realized I don't need to be beneath anyone either. A younger cousin sitting nearby mumbled, "Good for you," and I saw her avoid eye contact with her mother. It struck me then. I wasn't just saying these things for myself. Someone else at the table needed to hear them too. Someone else who'd spent years trying to be useful just to be visible. I turned to my brother. Do you remember when I asked about joining the family fund? Do you remember what you said? He looked uncomfortable. We didn't think he'd want to be involved. Right, I said. And now? He didn't answer. Because what was there to say? They had excluded me when it didn't cost them anything. And now that they thought I had something worth chasing, they wanted unity. But unity without accountability is just manipulation. I'm not angry, I repeated. Truly. I just have better things to do than chase people who only remember I exist when they're afraid. My aunt finally spoke, trying to patch the moment. We're just worried about you. You seem different. I am different, I said. I stopped begging. That last line sat in the air like a held breath. I stood up slowly, setting my napkin beside the untouched plate. I'm going to head out. My mother started to speak again, but my father shook his head. He knew. They all knew. As I walked toward the door, my cousin followed me out. That was intense, she whispered. But I get it. I really do. I smiled at her. Thanks. I didn't say anything I don't mean. Are you really okay? I'm better than okay, I said. I finally feel free. She hugged me. Proud of you. I didn't look back when I got in the car, because the girl they used to overlook was gone, and in her place was someone who'd stopped waiting for permission to be seen. They used to say I was strong. Now they say I'm cold. But I know the truth, I was always capable. Now I'm just unavailable. The first thing I did was buy a little stone cottage on the edge of the mountains. Not a mansion. Not a trophy. Just peace. The kind of peace you don't get when you're always waiting for someone to remember you exist. I decorated it slowly. Each piece of furniture was something I loved, not something that would impress guests. There were no showpieces, no curated bookshelves for fake admiration. Just what made me feel safe, warm, and real. Then I started traveling. Quietly. Not with flashy posts or hashtags. Just gone. Greece. Kyoto. The coast of Ireland. I sat in quiet gardens. I ate alone in restaurants that overlooked water. I let the silence soak into me, and I realized I wasn't lonely. I was free. I gave too. Not to the ones who demanded it, but to the ones who never asked. A friend's medical bill. A neighbor's tuition fund. A stranger's fundraiser. Always anonymous. Always deliberate. I built something else, too, my own fund. A trust with clear rules. A legacy that reflected my values. Not family loyalty. Not blood obligation. But character. It wasn't about keeping people out. It was about making sure what I built would never be used to harm me again. My mornings became my own again. I'd wake up when I wanted, make strong coffee, and sit on the porch as the sun came over the ridge. The birds didn't care how much money I had. The mountains didn't care that I had once been excluded. That kind of indifference, I found, was healing. Some days I would drive into town and visit the little bookstore I'd fallen in love with years ago. I started sponsoring local literacy programs under an alias, Quiet Impact, no family name attached. The only people who knew were the ones who genuinely thanked me, not the ones who assumed I owed them. The phone calls from my family didn't stop. My mother would leave voicemails asking how I was. My brother sent emails with vague questions about investments and tips. My sister posted passive-aggressive quotes about money-changing people on her social media. I never blocked them. I just didn't reply. Not because I hated them, but because I had nothing left to give them, not emotionally, not financially, not even conversationally. They had made their choice when they made that fund without me, when they wrote me out before I ever had a chance to be included. I made mine when I realized I didn't need to be written in. Once, I got a letter from my aunt, the only one who ever treated me with kindness. She said, "Your mother doesn't understand why you're so distant. She says it feels like you disappeared." I wrote back, tell her I didn't disappear. I just stopped arriving where I wasn't welcome. In the trust one created, I made sure to name causes I believed in: education, mental health, small business grants. I made sure the rules were airtight. No loopholes. No guilt manipulation. No one would claim I owed them anything because we shared a bloodline. I even gave myself a monthly allowance from it, not because I needed one, but because it felt good to be deliberate. To choose structure, not reaction. Eventually, I heard through a cousin that the original family fund had dissolved. Too many arguments. Too many poor decisions. Someone had tried to use it for a vacation rental scam. Another wanted a car. Another hadn't contributed anything but expected payouts. They had tried to build something exclusive and ended up building resentment. I had built something personal and found peace. There were still holidays. Still weddings. I'd get the occasional invite. The passive reach-outs meant to test whether I was still harboring resentment. But I wasn't. You have to care deeply to feel resentment. And I had stopped giving them that power. I began hosting small dinners. Friends, chosen family, people who knew my story and never asked for anything I wasn't ready to give. Sometimes I'd look around my table and feel something rise in my chest, not pride, exactly, but relief. Relief that I didn't have to keep earning my place anymore. That I'd already claimed it. People still talked. They always do. She's so mysterious now. She changed. She must think she's too good for us. I didn't correct them. Because what they believed about me said more about them than me. I knew the truth. I had created my own circle. My own values. My own future. They created a fund without me. So I created a future without them. One of the most powerful moments came quietly, no drama, no confrontation. I was walking through a weekend market, buying fresh fruit, when I heard someone call my name. It was my cousin. She looked surprised to see me. She glanced at the produce in my basket and said, "You seem happy." I smiled. "I am." She hesitated. "Your mom still talks about you, you know. She thinks maybe you'll come around." I didn't say anything at first. I just picked out a ripe mango and added it to my basket. Then I said, "I'm not around anymore. I'm ahead. There's a difference." I didn't say it to be cruel, just honest. She nodded slowly, unsure how to respond. The truth was, I didn't feel vindictive. I felt grounded, because everything I had now, I had built myself. Without their shortcuts, without their conditional love. The quiet wealth, the quiet strength, it wasn't about revenge. It was about release. I started sponsoring a retreat center in the mountains focused on healing, reflection, entrepreneurship for women who had been overlooked like I had. I didn't put my name on it, but every time someone walked through those doors and felt seen, I felt like something inside me had stitched itself back together. That was my legacy. Not the bank balance, not the travel photos, not even the trust fund, but the choice to give what I was never given and to give it where it would bloom. Even in moments of solitude, I reminded myself that absence wasn't the same as loss. I hadn't lost my family, I had released them. Released them from my expectations, my need for approval, my habit of reaching out first. And in doing that, I had gained something far greater, clarity. Clarity that I wasn't difficult or selfish or cold. I was finally truly whole. So when I sat down at the end of the day, journal in hand, tea on the windowsill, watching the sky change colors behind the trees, I didn't feel alone. I felt claimed. By myself. And that was more than enough.